There again, welcome everybody to our breeding and pregnancy advanced class. Try to show you all the different ways that you can use the software to get cattle bred, groups of cattle, individuals, and then also doing the preg checking to go along with these breedings. So everybody can see my dashboard, and one of the first places that you can find your open cattle is under the breeding icon here on the dashboard. And so all I have to do is set my criteria for pregnancy status to open. And it'll pull every open cow that you've got along with a little information to go with them. So from here, you can choose animals to breed, whether you choose one or several. Just know that if you choose a group off of this page, they will all be bred to the same bull, whether that's AI or natural service. We will cover some embryo transfer breeding a little bit later, and it has to be done on an individual basis. So we can come through here, we'll pick us a couple of animals and kind of scroll to the bottom, and we can breed them right here. So we'll choose artificial insemination, a date. Of course, you can pick it off the calendar. Let's just see, we'll just pick today. It's kind of late. You can use your technician's name. You can add more, as many as you like. We'll just go ahead and use mine. And then you choose the bull. Well, your list of bulls will pull up here at the bottom, and everything that is dark black is an active bull that is on your ranch. Anything that is in the light colored is a reference bull. This mostly pertains to semen, or maybe it has something to do with embryo transfer. It is not on your ranch. So we'll just pick us a bull since we're AI and get him out of the semen tank, and we can create these breedings. And that's all I'm going to do to these two animals. So once we do, the animals are now gone from our list because they've been bred. They no longer meet the criteria of open. So let's look at one of them that we just bred. She's now an exposed cow. It put a AI breeding to the bull, that K23 bull today, and it estimates her calving date. And this would be on both of the animals that I did. It also adds a breeding to the breeding tab. It shows the date, our estimated calving, who did the AI work, and the bull. So there's one method of getting an animal bred. Let me go back over here and we can go back again. I just need to find me an animal that I can use. Uh, let's just say we go to a single animal. And so this is an open cow that we have. Under our new add new activity, there's a breeding button here that allows us to pick, since we're doing a single animal, now the embryo transfer, because we are using a registered account, is now available as well. But we're just going to stick with the artificial insemination. We'll just use the date, still me. From here, we can actually choose our bull a lot easier. Just start typing in his name or his number. So we'll choose him and create a breeding. Same thing, shows up on the timeline, shows up under her breeding as well. Now, another way, let me find me another animal here right quick. We'll just pick this 88K. We can actually go to the breeding tab, new breeding, and get the same box, the same exact way we can breed this animal just like we've bred the others. So we did a group AI, well, a group, two animals, and then we've turned around and we've bred a couple of single animals by going to their individual page. Another thing you can do is if you're going to set up a bunch of cattle and you want to AI them all, you can actually go to the pasture and select your animals, and this is going to be every one of them. And then group update, add breeding, and I mean, we can AI them all at the same time. Still the same thing from the pasture. You still have to remember that every animal you select is going to be bred to the same bull. But we can go through and do that. If we've set them all up, pick our bull and create a breeding on all of those animals. You can also run another if you need to give them a treatment or change pastures or anything. As you know, you can continue on. So now we can find us an animal in here. And there's her breeding on the timeline and when she's due, and it added it. But it also added it to every animal in that pasture. Okay. So now we've come back, and actually on our breeding tab, we've got a lot fewer animals to cover. But that's a way to AI cattle and do them singly or in groups. So maybe we're not doing any artificial insemination. We want to turn in the bull. We could do it from that breeding, uh, the breeding icon, just like we did, and select through and say we turned them in. But most people use the pasture. So you can open the pasture, and as you see, we've got cows and calves in here, and we can select, well, actually we just go to the timeline, add new activity, and turn in the bull. So if we're actually putting a bull in the pasture, just moving him to the pasture does not create a breeding. The software needs a trigger that says, hey, this bull is being added to actually breed cows. This is the trigger, turn in bulls. So from here, we get a list of all the bulls we've got. We pick the day we turn them in. We'll just back up here a few months. And we can go through here and we can select 1 or 2 or 3 or all 8 of them. Doesn't matter. But whatever we select is fixed to be turned into our pasture. And it creates a breeding for every age eligible female. So if you still got a calf in there that's a heifer, or if you have a pasture full of calves that are all heifers, it will not breed them. They would have to be promoted to a cow. So let's go ahead and turn these 2 bulls in. And as you know, it now adds the 2 bulls to the inventory. On the timeline, it also shows you the date those 2 bulls were turned in on the 19 cows that were in that pasture. So if we come up here to one of these cows and go to her record, she's now an exposed cow. It shows 2 natural service breedings, 1 to each of the bulls, and they both got the same due date, and that is strictly based on the day the bulls are turned in. And until you do a pregnancy check, that's where it will stay. We look on our breeding tab, we now have 2 active breedings, 1 for each bull, and it says natural service, gives an estimated due date, and the 2 bulls. Okay. Any questions on any of that so far?
Jimmy, I do have a question. If additional cows are added to a pasture after you've already turned bulls in, how would you record that breeding?
Yep, you beat me to that, PJ. That's where I was headed next. So good question.
I knew it.
Okay, so we've got our pasture, we've got our cattle. So what happens, just like you say, if we've got, let me find me 2 cows from this pasture over here, and we will just go down through here. We'll pick 2 cows, and we're going to move them, change pastures, and we're going to add them into our Smith pasture. So they're going in the Smith pasture, and they're going in today. So we change pastures. So if you already know you have your 2 bulls turned in and you're adding 2 more cows, it's not, those bulls are not automatically going to be covered by the bulls because they didn't get that trigger the software needs. So you can either run another group update right here on these 2 animals, or you could wait and go to the pasture. But we're going to use this method right here, and we're going to add breedings. And so the method is natural service, because that's what we're doing. We're using the bulls. Well, it's only gonna let me choose one, isn't it? If you had one bull, this is fine, or you could do this twice. So let's go ahead and do one. And I think we backed that up to April 1. The end date, we still don't have an end date. So we will say we're covering them with this bull right here. So then we could run another group update for the 40/20 bull. But I'm gonna close this out. We're gonna go back to this Smith place. And so we have our 2 cows in there. Ooh, I knew I'd do that. What was the numbers, PJ?
G320 and G65.
G320, thank you, and G365. So we could have come here. It's still the same thing, isn't it? There's no way to add them both at the same time. So we can add the other breeding as well. Natural service. We back that up to, oh, well, we would want to back them up. Well, we want them to be bred today. And our bull was 40/20. Okay. That's how you cover bulls that are added in. You would need to create those breedings. And there's not a way to add multiple bulls at the same time when you do it that way. So if we look at that, gosh dog, right here. So if we look at the 320 bull and look at the breeding, we've added those 2 breedings. Well, this one and that one. And I messed up. I changed the date. I shouldn't have backed it up. It should have been the same day they were turned in. So they should both be here. They both would have been marked as a cleanup bull behind the AI. So I can fix this. You can always edit them. 623, update our breeding. So now they're both a cleanup behind the AI. Okay, does that make sense? I hope I didn't confuse everybody.
I think that's good, Jimmy.
They will have a different due date than everybody else because they got put in late. So, all right. So our bulls have been in there, but when we use the trigger to remove the bulls, that's not what I was looking for. I got to get out of here. The timeline is where I was trying. Remove bulls. So we can take the bulls off. We've still got the same 2 bulls in. We say, we'll just have to jump ahead a little bit. We're going to put them back in the bull pasture, and we could select one and end his breeding, or we can select them both and they both come out of there. And then select them. Okay. So we remove the bulls. This will then end our natural service breeding. We can come over and look at this 03. You can see this didn't change any, but the breeding has now stopped. You can see they were bred from 4/1 to 6/29. 89 days they were covered. So that breeding has stopped. But you have to use turn in bulls to trigger to start the breeding and remove bulls to trigger stop the breeding. So the same thing goes if you turn around and remove a cow or several cattle before that bull is removed from the pasture, you will need to trigger that on an individual animal to stop that breeding. Okay. Any questions on that part?
No, sir, Jimmy.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to our dashboard. And now we're kind of ready for some pregnancy checking. We've covered a lot of animals, and you can see we've got them AI and natural service both. So you could actually come up here and choose. Well, I better, yeah, most everything doesn't have many days, so it's going to be kind of hard to do. But we can pick some of our animals, and we can continue to our pregnancy check. And so we can say, I'm gonna move it up a few days. And then all of these are BIF, Beef Improvement Federation, check methods, so they cannot be changed. You cannot add any others. So we'll choose ultrasound. You can choose pregnant. Of course, that means she's pregnant. Open, she's not open. If you're not sure, if you think she's pregnant but not 100%, or you think she's open but she might be pregnant, use recheck. Recheck will not archive that breeding. It will just leave that animal as exposed so that you can come back later and repalpate her, re-ultrasound her, whatever you need to do, and not have to worry about your breeding being archived and reactivated, things like that. So we're going to say we got lucky and they're all pregnant and they're, can't do 6 days. It'll turn into 6 months, but we'll just say they're 120 days pre-fill. CattleMax knows the difference between 0 and 9. That automatically knows you're talking about months. If you go above that, it's going to know it's days. Now, if you do months, you cannot do 3.5 months. You would actually have to go ahead and multiply that out and say it's 105 days. You cannot use 0.5 when doing the months. So we can create our pregnancy checks. Okay, that's all we're going to do to those animals. Let's go back over here and look at our 23L cow. She's now pregnant because we did palpate her. Her breeding, she now has an ultrasound check for that day, 120 days. And you don't know, I mean, I don't know how she got double bred, but she did. So anyway, she would be bred to the AI bull. Okay. Another way to do the breedings is we can actually go to the pasture. So let's go to this Smith place where we turned in all the bulls. Under our cattle tab, we can select the cows. We don't want the calves. Ooh, I got way more calves than I thought I did. I might have been better off just to check the cows. So we can do a group preg check, just like we did before, but this is from the pasture. This is the method I prefer, just strictly because when I get a pasture full of cattle up, I give treatments to all of them. I also preg check all of them. So this is just my preferred method, but that is my choice. You have several other options. So from here, we can add our pregnancy checks. And it's going to be on all 20 animals. So we've got our check date, which we'll still move forward a little bit. Ultrasound, we're still going to say they're all pregnant, but and for time's sake, we'll say they're all 120 days as well. Pre-fill that value. If you've bred them, see, we've got 2 bulls. So our only problem with our 2 bulls is they got the same time in there. But we do have a couple of them here that are actually natural service and AI. So we could decide, well, if it was bred early or bred late, you can actually archive some of those breedings here, just like we do down here. It will clean up your calving screen if you know that ahead of time. If you can determine that, not necessarily know, but if you can determine that and just kind of clean up the screen a little bit. And so from here, we can create our pregnancies. And all of our cows are going to be pregnant in that pasture. Okay. Any questions on doing those preg checks?
No, sir, Jimmy.
Okay. You can also, let me choose this other pasture, and we bred a few cows. We bred this cow. just like before, you can go to your breeding tab and you can add a new pregnancy check right here. We've already done that animal, but you could do it from here as well on an individual basis. Okay, so the last method of breeding, and I gotta see if we got some cows left. We do not, but we're going to, let me see, I think I got some. Are these pregnant in this pasture? 12 over, she's already a pregnant cow. Anyway, we're gonna breed her again because I want to show you, if you're a registered breeder and you're doing embryo transfer, all the breedings need to be done either on the timeline or here on the breeding tab. So we can do this right as well, a new breeding. And since it's a single animal, we can choose embryo transfer. Our breeding date is the date that we put the embryo in. Of course, you can have a technician, and then you have to have the embryos already in your account. You cannot create one from here. They have to already be done. And then you come down and you choose which embryo you're using. And then, of course, which side you're putting it in, and you create that breeding. So now we have on our timeline an estimated calving to an ET breeding. And here it is as well. And on the mating now, it shows you the bull and the cow. Okay, and we could have done it from right here under the same breeding, just like we did the other one. But embryo transfer must be done on the individual animal. There is not a group breeding for embryo transfer. Okay, any questions on any of that? None?
No, sir, Jimmy.
Okay. I do want to show you that there are these little icons on here for calving. That means we have 30 calvings due this week. This little number is updated every Sunday. Any animals that do not calve this week will automatically be included in last week. So if we look at our calving, and I know these are behind, this is a test account. They should have been born in February, but here's our cow that we just put the ET in. So if we actually come in here and say no calf, if she didn't breed to that or calve to that, she thinks she's gone from the list, but she moves probably all the way to the bottom, close to it. There she is. That's the same cow. It now moves to her ET calving. And it's the same way for these two, natural service and AI as well. But this is where we use it to calve our cows. Okay. Any questions? I mean, that's pretty much what we were gonna cover, is how you breed the cows and how you preg check the cows. So if you have any questions, now's the time. Or if you have any questions about any other sections.
No questions so far, Jimmy.
Okay. Do you have any questions, PJ? Anything I left out?
Could you show us how to manually adjust the semen inventory, since we don't have that new feature added in quite yet?
Yes. Let's see here. On the cattle, our semen. So PJ's right. At this time, we do not have a way that automatically pulls the semen when we breed cows. So we have to come in manually to the bull, his collection code, because he could have several, and edit it. And if we've used one or two straws, it's just a matter of reducing that semen count that way. Now it shows you only got 3. We are working on this. It also reduced my number of straws down by 2 that I used. So every time you AI an animal, yes, you need to remember to go to your semen and remove them. Embryos automatically are deducted. So let's see, I think that, who was that cow? It was 2KE, I think. Maybe this is her. She's a reference cow. So her embryos, no, wrong cow. I was going to show you, if you remember in the other account, I don't remember which one of these have embryos. It gave you a list of all of them. If they are still dark, then you have them to breed. If they are light, means they've already been used. But only thing that shows up when you breed a cow by embryo transfer are those that are available. So you cannot pick one that's already been used, and it deducts it from your inventory. That good enough, PJ?
Yes, sir, Jimmy.
Okay.
Can you also cover how you record a heat?
Yes. Okay. So you can go to an individual animal. I think I've fooled around and got all my cows bred. I don't think I've got a single. Oh yeah, I got some exposed cows down here. But we can go to the animal, and on the breeding tab, here's the heats. Record a new heat. Whatever day you saw them, we'll back up a few days. You can keep the time. I like to know what time mine are because I base my breedings on so many hours after the time. Who observed it, and then you can give them a score. Now this score is totally up to whatever you want it to be. It can be a 1 to 10, 1 to 100, it doesn't matter. The higher the score, the hotter the heat for me. I use a score of 1 to 100. So and it's just me, I don't know, that's where I started from. It'll also figure the next time she ought to be in heat, and that is based on 21 days. Any kind of comments you want to put in here, and then you can create the heat, and it will show on the animal's record. Now, another place that you can see this is on the dashboard and on the breeding. There is a tab up here, and you can see the heats, when their last calving, last breeding, their last heat, and then it should show the next heat score. And you can pull a report on this to get you a list of those cattle that you need to be watching that should be coming back in. Okay, I use this very extensive when I'm out riding in my cows and it's not breeding season, or even if it is breeding season and I see a cow in heat, I'll enter this on my phone immediately, and then I sit there. I do sit and watch them so that I can determine what my score is. And for me, the higher the number, I think is the hotter the heat, because sometimes we get those that are just kind of a messing around type heat. I won't waste my semen on something like that. I'll just watch her for another 21 days. Okay. What else you got, PJ?
So far, that's it, Jimmy.
Okay, still no questions? Nobody's got any questions about this? I don't want anybody to feel like they're left out.
Can you maybe just quick run through how to add semen and embryos in? I've had a few questions about that.
Okay,
Just kind of where the semen and embryo screens are at.
okay. Well, you go to the cattle, and this is where you see the semen and embryos. So we can go to the semen. You can add a new semen record. Of course, you can add multiple tanks. I mean, we've got 2, but we've only got 1 there. But to add a new semen record, you just click it, the sire, let's say 40-20, 20 straws. If it's sexed, you can add that. The only thing you have to add is the sire. You don't even have to put in a number. What tank it's going in. Maybe the canister it's going in for, a collection code. And so you can see I've kind of got some already down here, but if it was 152 CH, stands for Charolais because that's a Charolais bull, 331. This is the number that is on top of the cane. And then if you've purchased it, of course, you can say yes and put in the date you got it, who from, and what you paid for each unit. We're not going to add that today. It's just going to be the same. And then we create our semen. So it added it right here, the 20 straws. It also added it to my tank. And if we go back to the cattle, that number is now up, the 20 straws that I just added in there. It's kind of the same way for embryos. You get over here and you can create a new embryo. So let's see if I can pick me a donor, 2K, the sire she's bred to. We'll go ahead and pick 2D. What tank it's going in, we'll put it in tank 2, canister 1. If you know the sex of it, you could add that. If you know the stage, you could add that as well. Any kind of grades, a collection date. So it could have been collected in 2019. Is it frozen? Yes or no? Of course, it's going to be frozen. A collection code. Whatever that number is, and you'll have it. And then, you know, an individual number as well. We'll just use the same one. I'm only going to add the one. And it is available. We didn't purchase it. We just say we got it on our place, and we can add a single embryo. So there, where did cow go? Was that her? Yes. That's the one we just added. Right down here. And then, of course, we can see them also in the tank when we added the animal. Dang, I got a lot of embryos I didn't know I had. Okay. That help, PJ? There's the one
Yes, sir, that works good. Thank you.
And you can see them both. There's no semen in that tank, but there's also no embryos in that one. Okay. Any other questions you got, PJ? Tony, you got any questions?
I don't
No
have
more
any.
here.
I hope you guys all caught on. I mean, I don't want to leave anybody behind, but I'm sure you've all got it. So if you don't have any more questions, we won't take any more of your time. But if you've also got a question about anything else on the software, just let me know. If not, we appreciate you joining the class. As you know, if you think of something later, you can call us tomorrow. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 Central Time. Call us at 800-641-2343. You can email us anytime, howdy@cattlemax.com, and we will answer those during our work hours. And then, of course, we've got the chat button now that you can use and talk to or chat with us during those same hours. Our support is always 100% free, so don't be bashful about asking questions. Everybody you talk to at CattleMax still uses the software, and we still all live on our own ranches and managing our cattle using the software. So, PJ, if you got any questions, I'll answer them. If not, we'll let everybody go.
Nope, I think we're good, Jimmy.
Okay, well, again, thank you to everybody that joined us this evening. If you think of something, just let us know. Hope you all have a great night. Thank you.
Good night.